You are listening to the Expert Adda Podcast, and today we are here in conversation with the Board of Director of Punjabi Chamber of Commerce and an experienced governance professional, Ms. Inderpreet Kaur. She has a demonstrated history of working in the renewable, infrastructure, and financial services industry in both India and UK. So let's get started. Ms. Inderpreet, my very first question to you is, we all know that finance is a very sensitive sector that requires a lot of trust and privacy policies in place. What do you think, is the present day digital financial setup up to the mark?
It is actually a very important subject, and we definitely should be discussing it. And with today's dynamic environment and where information is available in abundance, let us try to break this question into different parts to answer it correctly.
Sure, please.
Let's first think about why technology. The rise of technology has been a game changer for most of the sectors. One of the most major disruption in this industry, specifically talking about financial industry, has been the digital transformation. I would say every sector, be it retail sector, FMCG, clothing, durable goods, medical, infrastructure, finance, talk about any sector, it has been highly impacted by this disruption.
Rightly said.
Finance industry has always been an industry which has to bring about some new technology or innovation to keep it going and reliable. With so many issues cropping up every day in the financial systems, you have to keep up developing something new, and that development is nothing but a byproduct. So I'm sorry, it is a direct product of new technologies. With AI, artificial intelligence, as we say, blockchain, digitalization, everything on the cards has put this industry at the helm of security issues. Specifically from the governance side, it has been really challenging with so many regulations, privacy issues, privacy policies. There's a lot of work which has to be done. With large amount of data comes large number of security issues, and for large number of security issues you have to come up with various policies and control checkpoints, etc. That is where this entire industry today is struggling.
True, very true.
So let's now see that how we are trying to cope up with this. Law definitely intends to enforce rules and regulations as in how the financial institutions should be collecting and disclosing customers' personal information, financial information. Today, with everything being available at the click of a button on the apps and huge amounts of money and information, by money, I mean money, commodities, stocks, and information which is being traded, it's riskier than ever, but also with so much of data available and security checks which are put in the right place, it is also pretty much seamless as well, and we can consider it secured. I won't say it is absolutely secure, but definitely all these banking systems, the financial systems, they have definitely developed those softwares, and if we are using the technology in the correct way, it is completely secured.
So, what all necessary reforms do you think should be brought in?
I would actually say that one of the best reform which today we need to see in this industry as well as in any other industry is basically awareness and education of using this technology, so that the consumer, the customer, or the whoever is using this particular technology or any particular technology is able to identify how to use it. If you're using it right, there is nothing to worry. Further, we definitely need better cross border transactional laws, stronger GDPRs, data protection laws, and a lot of customer centric, the laws need to be centered around the customers, or the government needs to take a more consumer centric approach.
Yes, the right usage is the main thing here. While reading your bio, we also got to know about your interest in analyzing complex informations. With digital media, today we have endless information floating about each subject. I want to know, how do you go about identifying the authenticity of such information?
This is a very tricky question which you've asked me. Well, information is always complex. Any data that is collected and presented is based on some facts, some constants, some variables, somewhere it's logic. It is always essential for us or anyone who is looking for information to identify the purpose of collecting that information. And there has to be a lot of effort which goes on in finding the authenticity of that information, or basically, identifying the sources from where you pick up that information. The second important factor I would say is that one needs to be personally involved in the subject. Unless one is invested into a subject, they would not really go for the fact finding approach, and they would just, maybe just randomly go on Google, pick up the information, and present it in their data. You have to, give in a lot of thought that how that data has been compiled. One very important tip that I can give for collection of data, which I generally follow, is referring to books rather than online data. Books are the result of hard work of years. I mean, at least we can say months now. And people really put in their sweat and blood into the book, because once it's written in the book, you can't really go and burn all the copies of the books if people have bought it. But what happens online is basically you can always delete that data. I mean, I don't know how many people do that, but then it's a possibility that you can you can change data, you can revise your document and put it out there.
Yes, that's pretty much possible and practical.
So, and also, like, even while gathering information from various sources, one must apply some analytical skills to understand the data and check the authenticity and relatability to a particular subject that they are working on. For example, if I want to, if I want to today uh, do a research on investment funds or anything, I can like crunch in a lot of numbers. Okay, this fund is giving this profit, this much is happening, and over the last 5 years, this has happened. So, okay, the next 5 years, this can happen. But when I collect all that information, I have to apply my brain that today, the factors which stand today for the valuation of that particular fund may not be the same factors which will stand tomorrow. Today, with ESG coming into picture, or climate oriented, the climatic factors which we have to put in, all that goes into those funds valuation, and you have to consider that. So that is what I'm trying to explain, that unless and until you're invested into that subject and you're really, really very much involved with that, you'll not be able to, determine the authenticity of data. There's a lot of logic which you can directly relate to collection of data and presentation of data and identifying the authenticity of the data.
A quick question, it just came to my mind just now. For what all industries has digitization proved to be a bane?
I would not really say that technology or digitalization can be a bane in particular for any sector. It totally depends on the perspective and the way you analyze, and you look at the opportunity cost. Technology, if you're using it in the right way, is definitely a boon. However, nothing comes with only pros. There are always cons associated to anything. But I would again, I would reiterate the fact that people and sectors who fail to recognize the change and opportunity of new technologies usually end up suffering. I have learned an amazing analogy from my husband, that only flowing water remains fresh. Stagnant water always gets stale. So that is it, that is what I always apply. And I don't really think that if you want to really grow and get the maximum out of new opportunities and all, you need to embrace technology. And I don't think it can be like a bane to any sector. Yeah, there have been instances where we hear that small scale manufacturers did suffer due to large scale organizations who were able to promote their products, sell their products online and all. But then again, I would say somewhere or the other, it's not a failure, but maybe where the small manufacturer got limited and he probably did not foresee or did not plan for the future. So that is what you always need to. You need to keep an eye on the present, but then you also need to think about your future. That okay, in future, I mean, again, we go back to the same thing, that the factors which we have today will not be the factors which you have tomorrow. to determine where you are.
That's indeed the best approach, I would say.
So yeah, technical advancement will always keep on going, and with digitalization, you have to embrace it. There is like no looking back.
And I'm sure that the listeners too have a lot to absorb from it. Would you like to put forward any message for them?
Message for my listeners. Okay. So the only message which I'll give you is embrace the change. Evolution is something that mankind is meant for. Keep updating yourself, and it's always good to learn new things. It is never going to harm you. After that, if you have evaluated that okay, something which you were always already doing was better than the new trick which you have just learned, you can always go back to your previous one, but then be always open to change.
Yes, change for something good is also an integral element of growth journeys. So thank you so very much, Miss Inderpreet, for being here with us and for sharing whatever knowledge and information and imparting these to our audience. To keep listening to our upcoming episodes or to share your story, please visit punjabichamber.com or contact us by writing to the address mentioned in the description.